Meanwhile, this is a little bit of a flashback. You'll recall back in December of 2016, we played a clip of Jeff Bewkes, who is the CEO of Time Warner. He was at a Business Insider thingamajig. This is back when I used to wear long sleeve shirts because of winter. And here is that clip of Jeff Bewkes. This is relevant today because of a piece that was written by the New York Times yesterday. Here is Jeff Bewkes.
He's threatening to effectively change the First Amendment. He's obviously got CNN at sites. Do you worry about that at all?
No, I don't think that's a serious thing. We should all worry.
He was just asked, do you worry about Donald Trump? This is back in December because Trump was hitting CNN pretty hard. Go ahead.
It's a serious thing. We should all worry if anybody's going to change the First Amendment. And remember, the Democratic Party had a campaign plank to change the First Amendment. And they were doing it in the guise of campaign finance reform. And that was worrying me more because the press tends to miss that because they tend to lean that way, and therefore they were supporting what they were viewing, I think overly charitably, as something in cleaning up money in politics, when in fact what it would do is restrain multiple voices. And so I thought the threat to the First Amendment came from the Democratic side more. I think there's not going to be a serious effort on the Republican side.
Now, at the time, that seemed like an off-the-wall comment because, first off, the ability of the Democrats to change the First Amendment with a Republican president who was sure to get a 5-4 majority on the Supreme Court once he was elected. It may end up being a 6-3 majority, at least in terms of something like Citizens United. And presumably that's what he's talking about, Bewkes. The idea that that's a concern is ludicrous. However, and we noted this at the time, Jeff Bewkes, CEO of Time Warner, is attempting to merge with AT&T in a multi-billion, with a B, billion-dollar merger that, of course, needs all sorts of approval ranging from the FTC, the FCC, and the DOJ. And Bewkes already at that time, or Bewkes, clearly was aware that he couldn't criticize Trump and felt that merger was threatened. Now, frankly, if we had an appropriate antitrust regime in this country, it wouldn't be allowed. But that's not what's going on here. New York Times reported yesterday, White House advisors have discussed a potential point of leverage over their adversary, i.e. CNN. Senior administration official said, a pending merger between CNN's parent company, Time Warner, and AT&T. Mr. Trump's Justice Department will decide whether to approve the merger, and while analysts say there's little to stop the deal from moving forward, the president's animus towards CNN remains a wild card. First of all, this is so effed up in so many different ways. I don't know what analysts they're talking to, but it seems to me there's plenty of reason why you wouldn't want AT&T and Time Warner to merge. I would also argue that calling it Mr. Trump's Justice Department is part of the problem. The other part of the problem, obviously, is that when your government is run like the way, let's say, a king or a dictator would run it, I like you and I like you, so you guys are going to get regulatory passes. I don't like you, so you're going to get regulatory crushed. I mean, that's about as bad as it can get in terms of an autocratic regime. Well, excuse me, let me rephrase that. It can get a lot worse. But in terms of regulations, so we've gone past the corporations have bought out and there's regulatory capture. This is the whim of one guy. When regulatory capture by corporations starts looking like not the worst case scenario when it comes to regulations, then you know you've got a serious problem. I'd argue we'd had a serious problem before then. And I would also argue, as we have on the show, that we need some antitrust to return, like the K. Sabeel Rahman interview that we recently did, one with Barry Lynn as well. But so this is, it's interesting to see just how far ahead the CEO of Time Warner anticipated the problems he might have with a Trump regime. Hi, folks. Sam Seder here. We still need your help on our Patreon page. YouTube ads have come back, but not nearly as much as we had before. So if you can help us out, any little bit helps. Head over to our Patreon page right at this URL, and you'll help us keep helping you by making videos